This is Jamie Magridge. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'd like to show you how to make a paper bag mini album. Well, it's actually just a mini album. It's using a paper bag for the binding. And I'm not going to show you today how to decorate it because I haven't even finished decorating this one. I just put a card, literally, on the front of it. But I'm going to show you the mechanics and how to make it. It's got 5 little pockets, tags in them. You can decorate it any way you want. And it's using a paper bag that came in a paper pumpkin set. And this particular paper bag is, let's see, where did I have it written? 4.5 by 5.5. And it's 2 inches, 2¼ inches gusset. Okay, so let's get started. You need a hinge mechanism. The hinge on mine is 3 7/8 by 9 inches. I have pages to make the pockets. This is 5.5 by 8.5, and then I have covers for the inside and outside of the mats. There's 4 of those. It's 5 3/8 by 4¼ I have a binding piece which is 5.5 by 4¼ and then I have 5 tags which is 5 3/4 by 5.5. So let's put those aside. We don't need those at all right now. The binding and the cover for the mats we won't need for a minute. We'll use them later. And the first thing we're going to do is do our scoring for our pages and our hinge. So let's bring in our scoring board. You can use your trimmer if you want, but I find this easier, usually. Okay. So we're going to put them in and score them at 4 and 8 inches. And you'll notice I turned them over. This paper has a little bit of an arch to it, so I want that to be on the inside. So I'm going to score it at 4. And at 8 inches. Get a new scoring board. Okay, then we're going to fold those both in. Bring in a bone folder. This is important with this. With a nice crisp crease, it makes everything lay nicely. Okay, then we're going to bring in some adhesive. You can use the tear and tape. I'm going to just use the liquid glue for the pages. I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue, a light coating along that little tab there. Lay it down. Give it a good burnish. The burnishing causes warmth, and the warmth is what helps to make the glue to set. And that's our pages. See how it's a pocket? Okay, so I'm going to repeat that for the rest of them. Show you one more. I'll bring my scoring tool, score it at 4 inches. Use the small end. And at 8 inches, crease on the folds. Burnish with your foam folder. Add adhesive on this little 1/2 inch flap here. Close down the card and burnish. Okay, now I'm going to put you on pause and I'll come back when I have the rest of my pages made. Okay, I'm back. I have one more page to show you. I just wanted to mention, I forgot to say, when you're folding these over, make sure your edges line up. And if they don't, put them where you want them and use your bone folder to encourage that. I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I forgot to say it when I was doing it. And that's just so you have nice straight pages. Okay, now for the hinge. We're going to come in with it's 3 7/8 by 9. Now there's a lot of scores on this. 1 inch, 1.5 inches. This is the piece that's going to attach to our cover. This is the space between the cover and the first page. Then we're going to go to 2 inches, 2.5 inches. Those are the spaces that's going to glue together to create the hinge that our page is going to adhere to. Now we need a space to go between them. That's 1/4 inch. So I'm going to do 2 3/4 inches. Then I need to create another hinge. These are 1/2 inch, so I'm going to go over another 1/2 inch, which is 3 1/4 inches. The other side of that hinge, another 1/2 inch, which is 3 3/4 inches. Okay, now I need another 1/4 inch space because I need a space between those pages. So I'm going to 4. Now another 1/2 inch to create one side of the hinge. 4.5 and 5 inches. That'll create the hinge. Okay, then 1/4 inch, so 5 1/4. Okay, then I need 1/2 inch, which is 5 3/4. I gotta make a correction on my 5 3/4. Okay, so that's the next 1/2 inch, 5 3/4. Then another 1/2 inch, which is 6 1/4. Then 1/4 inch for the space, which is 6 1/2. Then we're going to 1/2 inch, which is 7 inches. Another 1/2 inch, which is 7 1/2 inches. And then one at 8 inches for the other space to the back of the binding. Okay. And just add one more mark on this page and 8 inches. Okay, so I have a 1 inch space on each end. I have 1/4 or 1/2 inch space for between the pages in the front and the back covers. Each page is going to require 2 1/2 inch marks and then a 1/4 inch space between them. 2 1/2 inch marks and a 1/4 inch space between them. And 2 1/2 inch marks. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. Okay. So each one of these little 1/4 inch marks on either side of that, you're going to fold a valley fold or fold up. And you're going to want to use your bone folder. I'm bringing in this one just because I like the angle at the bottom of it. So each one of those little spaces we're going to fold. Well, technically I probably should have turned the paper over, but I'm not going to get there. And just make sure these edges are straight. See how that one's a little crooked? You want to make it straight. Otherwise your pages will be crooked in your book. Little ones are the hardest, that's why we're doing those first. Okay, now these outside ones are going to go up, because that's how your cover would be. Okay. This one's going to go up as well. Okay, so those two. So right now we got a shape like that. And then each of these other ones between is going to get folded back. Like that. See? Okay. Fold this one back. This is the only tricky part of the whole thing. The reason I folded those little ones first is because it's a little bit fiddly to do them afterwards. I just found it easier to do them first. But however you want to do it. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. See it? So we have the 1-inch piece, a 1/2-inch piece for the binding, the 2 1/2-inch pieces that are folded up together, 1/4-inch piece, 2 1/2-inch pieces that are folded together, 5 of those, and another 1/2-inch piece and a 1-inch piece to connect to the cover. Now the back side of each one of these V's, we need to put glue in. You can use your tear and tape. I just do one at a time. Pinch it. Give it a good burnish. And that's going to create the hinge that our page is then going to get glued onto. Like that. Okay? A little bit of glue. Like I said, this is the only really fiddly part. Maybe putting the pages on is a little bit fiddly. Burnish it down. A little bit of glue. Whoops. Well, it's alright because I'm just going to get glue there anyway. Burnish it down. If tear and tape is easier for you, or by all means use that. It's probably a little bit stronger. Or fast fuse would be good if you have it. I don't have any of that anymore. One more. Burnish it down. Okay. So now it should look like this. Okay, so now you want to put it down and you want to work these little flaps to go both sides so that when you go to turn your pages, they're not too stiff. Now, I'm going to place that aside for a minute. We're going to bring in our paper bag. Let me move this because we don't need this up here anymore. And we're going to bring in a pair of scissors. I'm going to open up our bag. I'm going to use the longer snips. Okay, right in the center there where that fold is, we're going to cut from the top of the bag all the way to this bottom edge here. Try to keep it straight and neat if you can. Okay, turn it over, do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now we're going to take our smaller nips because I just find it easier. And where it's attached to the bag here at the bottom, we're going to cut that. Like that. And I'm going to trim just the tiniest little, tiny little bit off of there for future. Just a little, tiny little wedge. Okay. Make it as neat as you can. This is the cover of your book. Tiny little wedge. Okay, same thing on the other side. Tiny little wedge. One more. Tiny little wedge. Okay. Now, if this is a little bit messy here on this edge, go ahead and trim it up, make it neat. Don't want to take off much, just the tiniest little bits. Not being very successful here, but there we go. Okay, the rest of it doesn't look too good. Okay, so this is going to be the cover of our book. Okay, now we're going to bring in this binding piece. We're going to put glue on these inch pieces. It's going to get tucked underneath these flaps, centered between those two seams there. And this is where I chose to just make this a cover, but if you wanted to make it a pocket, you would just glue down at the bottom and then glue a piece over the top of this. But I wanted this to be tougher, so I'm just going to fold these open for now, glue this piece onto here, a thin, even coat. Open this up, line up this edge with the edge of the bag. Okay, don't give me no grief now, come on. Lift it up, make sure it's going to fold up nice. Burnish it down. Okay, now I'm going to take glue. I'm going to glue down these little flaps. Again, you don't want glue, so much glue that it's oozing out, because this glue does not dry, it stays tacky. Oh, and I almost forgot, if you want to take the handles off, you would do that before you fold this down. I just didn't remember to do that. You just would peel them off. I'm going to go ahead and leave them on. Now I'm going to take my bone folder and kind of crease in here where this is so that it's easier to do my next step. Okay, add glue here. Lay that down. Burnish it. Get glue where you don't want it, let it dry, and then come in with a glue eraser, and it'll rub right off. But you gotta let it dry, otherwise it'll tear the paper when you go to erase it. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Before we do that, on these pieces, we need to put some, either adhere this part down with the glue. Now I've done that on this, but it's a little bit tricky to not get the glue to come out, and I don't think it's quite strong enough. So I'm going to go ahead and use tear tape, but I'm going to use, I have this big wide sequin tape, but you can use your tear tape and just put tear tape on each one of these pieces. I think I'm just going to use this because it's wider and I know it's strong enough. The tear tape will work fine. Quite long enough. Let's do it like that. Another little piece because I didn't cut it long enough. Okay, now there's a piece of this on this one. If I can find the end. Okay, burnish it down. That's the important part. If you burnish it down, then you know it gets good adhesion to your paper. Take those backs off. Come on. That's why I chose to use this, so I don't have so many to peel off. But you can definitely use your 1/4 inch tear tape and that would be fine. And you're going to lay this down. Use your bone folder in there and get really good adhesion. You could use the tear tape for the whole entire thing, but alright. I need to shift this just a hair. Okay, now we're going to glue the front cover to this piece. Put these sides up. Down, short this up. Okay, glue down our sides. sure you get to the edge. I didn't get to the edge. Okay, this side here. Fold it down. Burnish it with your bone folder. And try to not push the glue out from underneath it. Do. Come in with a rag, wipe it off, wait for it to dry and erase it. And we're going to cover it up anyway. Okay, so that's the cover for your book. Now let's add those pages. And again, you can use your tear and tape. I actually find it easier to use the wet glue, just simply because I have a little bit more play then. So I start at one end, put a little bit of glue, not too close to the bottom because you don't want it to come oozing out that bottom and get your page all sticky. Top half of the hinge, and I take one of the pages and I slide it on there. Make sure it's centered on that hinge. Burnish down the bottom. There we go, and then I'm going to repeat that for the rest of the pages, one at a time. One thing that I am going to do is make sure that all the pages are lined up in a row. I'll show you what I mean. Let's add a little bit of glue here. And on this side, I only glue one hinge at a time. It's too messy otherwise. Take a page, and you can alternate which side the seam is on. That way it's less bulky, but you don't have to. Put it in, and then I just want to make sure it's the same as this previous one. Squish it in, burnish it. Over, burnish the other side. Okay, continue that process for the other 3 pages. Make sure you have enough glue, but not too much. Where I want it. I'll squeeze down at the bottom. Make sure it still moves freely. Push it down. Okay, 2 more. Push it down. One last. Just make sure you're not folding this completely over so you're getting glue on your next page. You gotta hold it lifted up a little bit. Goes this way. Make sure you're lined up. You're okay. Shh. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. My dog needed to go out and get excited. Alright. Now we're going to bring in the mats for the covers. We've got all of our pages in. And the tags just slide inside those pockets that we made. Just slide down in there. They stick up about a little more than a 1/4 inch, probably 3/8 of an inch. And you could, you know, fancy cut them, whatever you wanted. I just left them like this. Four, 5, there's my tags. Okay, now for the covers. They're 5 3/8 by 4 1/4. We're going to put one on the inside. Kind of hides this part. That's where I was saying you could make this a pocket if you wanted to. If you didn't glue these down here, you could glue this on only to that part. And then you would have a pocket here, but I wanted it to be more of a cover. I wanted it stiffer, so I'm just going to adhere this to the front of the book, you know, to the cover. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. I want it to go all the way to this bottom because I want it to hide this part here. Even side to side. Now take your bone folder and on either side of this strings you're just going to rub onto the paper because it's a little bit damp from the glue. And you're going to crease it there so that you get a nice adhesion on either side of that rope. This white stuff will rub right off. It's evidently I have a little glue on here. It's coming off onto my paper. That way you don't have any bubbles or any of that in the front of your cover. Okay, we're going to do that the front and the back. And then we're going to take one and adhere it here on the front. From the bottom up to the top like that. Side to side, and we'll do the same on the back. Just a little glue. It wipes right off with my glue eraser. Okay, so there's my cover. We do the back one real fast, and then we'll do the binding, and the mini album itself is done except for decorating. Okay, so we'll do the same on the back. Open it up. Take one, glue it here. way down here to the crease so I hide all that brown. That's why I trimmed those a little bit at the beginning, so that you didn't see that little bit of paper bag behind the cover. It just makes it tidier. I need to get some rubbing alcohol and take it to my bone folder. It must be, it has glue on it. Well, it's showing a little bit there. I didn't trim it quite far enough, but it's alright. It's just a mini album. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's what makes it handmade, right? And store-bought ones aren't perfect though if you look at them. Alright. One on the cover. Down to the bottom, centered side to side. Awesome. See how stiff that made it, that cover? Nice and stiff. Okay, now we're going to do the binding. And basically, I just took it like this and scored it where that fold is. It comes out to be 5.5 and 4 1/4. Oh, 1 3/4. And 4. That's what the score marks are for that cover. This one you want to make sure you work it both, you know, so that it's really flexible, because that's the binding of the cover. Okay. And then again, we're just going to adhere this right here over the, so that this covers this end, this covers the back of the book, that covers that end. See it? Sorry, I'm too high. Okay. And again, you could use your sequoing tape, or you could just glue it on. I'm going to go ahead and use this because I have it here. I glued it on the other one. It worked just fine. Here. Or use a combination of put the tape around the edge and then glue on the inside. That would work. Want to make sure it stays nice and tight, because this is going to take all the wear and tear. This is the binding of the book. I'll go ahead and use glue on this part. To burnish this down, so I'm burnishing this tape down so that the back comes off. Okay, then I'm going to bring in my book. I want to center this here. Okay, that's why I chose to use wet glue. It's my first one because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room play. See how this is not quite lining up front and back? Well, the wet glue gives me that little tiny bit of wiggle room so I can adjust it. There we go. There we go. Open it up. Adhere this to the back. Oh, one of my pages is not in. So we'll put it in a minute. Okay, there we go. We just successfully created a mini album. We just need to decorate it now. A little cute little mini album. Well, thank you for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play. Thanks. Have a great day.